keen to do it.
Definitely.
That's
Awesome.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So so I thought maybe that's the thing. That's the sort of thing that you're interested in anyway, isn't it, Reece? There's sort of connections between
Yeah.
all the different thinkers and stuff, and Girard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, when I saw it, I thought, yeah, there's this, and yeah, it's definitely one to kind of I'll probably get corrected, or I'm seeing it wrong or something. But I thought, if I saw this mimetic desire created where you have this kind of irrational relationship with other people and over a sort of object, and it sort of came to me, and I was just walking around, and I sometimes get a bit I don't know if this is just like London being a terrible place, Lasso, but I walk around and I just see people, and the way they look at me or the way they interact or I interact with them, depending on what mood I'm in, I can feel a different vibe of what they're trying, like what they're putting out or what I am with them, and just like a weird thing goes on in my head. And I thought, is that like how it actually is objectively, or is that me like
Your
projecting
mood,
onto
your
my
mood,
mood?
or your orientation toward other people.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, wow, so if I'm projecting all that onto other people and I'm reacting to them because of what I'm putting onto them, like how deep does that go? Is that like, is that really fundamental, or is that a kind of superficial thing? Or if it's fundamental, if I'm projecting parts of me that I kind of reject or am sensitive about onto them, then that could kind of create, kind of, if you want to call it mimetic relationship over rivalry for like was like a who is correct, who is right or wrong, or who is sort of putting yourself in battle with the parts of you that you are wrestling with or reject or suppress.
That's right. And that's the sort of Jungian shadow idea in a way, but also I think what I guess I was trying to explain the other day, and I probably didn't explain it very well, and I don't even know if I completely understand it myself, but it's like, actually what I think is Girard is saying is that before you even start doing that, the whole idea of what you should be has come to you, or what you think you should be has come to you from other people. So that started from somewhere else anyway. It's like you've got all these ideas and you want to own that territory kind of thing for yourself. And you have this illusion that you do own it, that it is your territory. And then, you see someone else doing that thing or whatever, and you feel envious of them. But, in a sense, it's like, it's not yours. It's your sense of why you should do it or desire it or desire to be that has come from somewhere else. And I think it's really useful to actually have examples, like live examples. So my example was from last night. So I was watching the telly, and I was there's this girl on Poe from MasterChef Australia.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, she's very cool, and she's very multifaceted because she's amazing, obviously amazing cook, but she also is an artist. So I was just watching the show, and I thought I'll have a look at her art and see what it's like. And I found all the images of her art. She's beautiful art, right? And like straight away, because like I do art, right? So straight away I could feel this little feeling. You can feel it. You can feel it's usually, like I felt it right in here, like, which is like the thymus gland, which is like your life energy, which is like, and it was like, and I slowed myself down. You see, I slowed it down. I went, all right, you don't have to feel envy, you do feel it, like you can, and like I was saying, okay, what is that feeling? What's that feeling? So it's this really uncomfortable feeling, like I want to be that, and she's that, and so there was it was a really tangible little feeling, but like normally, you skate over those things, and you tend to, like, you jump straight into the rationalization. You think, oh yeah, her art is okay, but it's, it's got this problem or that problem, or my style, or I don't really like it that much, or like I really don't want to be an artist anyway, like I want to do something else. Like usually you just straight into those rationalizations. The emotions come, and then first of all you clock that this person is kind of what you think you want to be. And that's the mimesis. And of course, it's only one bit of who you think you want to be, but at the time, it's like it becomes a focus. First of all, you clock that. Usually that's completely subliminal, but you do get the emotion. You get the emotion, oh, I feel a bit bad because I'm not that good or whatever. And then you get the rationalizations just jump in, oh yeah, I don't really want to, yeah. So that's my experience of last night when I was watching telly, and that's like after I've done heaps of thinking and stuff about like, why do I like not being snobby about art, not being competitive about art? Like I've been there, like I've done lots of self sort of interrogation over it. And I'm just like, it's still there. It's still like, it's like a little mechanism.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. I get that so bad all the time. Like if you see, because I'm not really artistic and I don't express my artistic side or if I even have one at all, really. I've written some poems. I think I was a bit drunk the other night and posted one on the Boyo chat.
Good work.
Nice. Good.
Oh, it's so bad. But
I think I read it. It was good. It had a really good rhythm to it. I thought it was good.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I feel like when I see other people who, it's always the exact same, express an artistic side. Probably more people that I feel are more in my category of people who are not artists, but they're giving a hobby a go and then they're sharing it with people. Mm-hmm. And I'll think, I don't know, that exact feeling where you're like, that's kind of like, I wanted to be that. And it made me think of a lyric when you were saying that. It's a lyric or something I heard once, and it's that you're afraid of someone being better at being you than you are.
Yeah. But then you see, the thing is, you've only been like your instant. I think the guy who did the psychological interpretation of Girard, I think what he's saying is you instantaneously you see this trigger of this person who represents this stuff and is doing this stuff and is and this creates in that instant. Like I'm just sitting here, I'm happy. I've had a really nice dinner. I'm watching telly. I'm more relaxed. I've got
lots of
things that I'm doing. Blah blah blah. It's lovely weather, but instantaneously it creates this sense in me of like, I want that, and in fact that person's got what I want. But in fact, what I want just got created 2 seconds ago by seeing her. You know what I mean? Like it didn't really exist before then, in a sense.
It makes me wonder how deep it could go. Like that's probably an example where, you're aware of it now and helped by the fact you've been like reading about Girard. But then it's like, could when you're like growing up as a child or something, and these impressions of the world go in like super deep, where you don't even know where your drives are coming from and the experiences. Like, could you have these kind of mimetic emotional attachments to someone or something that you developed as a child that actually is driving your whole program, where even your emotions and rationalizations, like if you can hardly unpick a MasterChef winner artist making you feel like an artist, which we all have these like similar feelings, or me seeing my mates post some artistic stuff on Facebook, how could we have a chance of unpicking stuff that we experienced as a 3-year-old or something? Which
that's the thing. But in some
if it goes there,
what this guy also says, which is another like freaky sort of, because he says so he's presenting this as a timeline, right? First thing that happens is that your self gets created by seeing someone else. So first thing that happens is the mimesis and the creation of your sense of yourself desiring that thing. That's what we always forget. We forget that that's happened. Then comes the emotions, and then comes the cognitive rationalization. So that's a timeline. But what he says is that like that because we forget the first bit, we can get stuck we're thinking of time wrong. We're thinking of time wrong. So it's only when we recognize that the whole thing got kicked off by that person, is that we come back to reality, the real nature of the time progression. And anyway, sorry, I've lost my train of thought, but like I was also talking about this other time related thing, because the other thing he says is, because he kind of throws Freud and that out the window, because he says, you know, this whole idea that you've got this this built up or hidden or repressed stuff from childhood, and that you're carrying it through, and you're still affected by it and all that. He says it's pretty unlikely. What it is, he says, is if you have that experience like now, present time, like me last night, it might remind you of an experience you had when you were 4. But he said that's not because you're carrying that experience through as a traumatic experience. His theory is that you actually, it's just that it's the same kind of experience, because this relationship, this is the fundamental difficulty that people have in relationships. So you're not carrying it through. It's just a repeat of exactly the same kinds of feelings that you had back then, or at high school or whatever, when you were jealous of someone or whatever. And so that blows that whole aspect of psychology out of the water as well. Like, you know, you're not sort of carrying around this huge amount of unresolved trauma. It's just that, you know, in present time, you keep encountering the same kinds of issues.
Oh, that's interesting, because I think even Peterson says something like, I heard it from him, probably it's not his original idea, but if you keep remembering something that, I don't know, like more than a few years old, then that means that you haven't resolved. You haven't resolved that thing. You haven't extracted out from that experience everything that you could have. You didn't learn lessons from that particular memory. So that, you say that this is kind of contradicted by Girard then?
It's not necessarily. I mean, you could easily still you still have that. You could still easily be carrying around stuff like that that's unresolved. I'm not saying that that's actually true, but I'm saying that the other thing to remember is that, yes, you might have these past things that you're carrying, but actually they keep getting created in the moment. A really good example of what you were saying before, Reese, about like you could be stuck in a rivalry for years and years. Well, he argues that this is exactly what happened to Nietzsche, that Nietzsche's whole neurosis and eventual madness was related to an excruciatingly long, drawn out, starting with hero worshipping and moving right through to extreme rivalry and anger, to the final phase of like defeat with Wagner. That he had this rivalry with Wagner, and that eventually destroyed him.
I guess it's interesting as to whether these things could. I was like, oh well, it must be something from, you know, if you're thinking about what could control your whole life. Like, I guess one, in that instance, you're saying one rivalry, one mimetic relationship can direct your whole life. So it might happen in the moment, but then it can carry on throughout your life.
Yeah, because it's like that person, like he set Wagner on a pedestal, and he was like hero worshipping him in a sense, and that spurred him on to be like that and to create like that or whatever. And so he's charged up on that path, and it's passes in a sense a path of genius, because they both were geniuses, like, you know, but he's charged up on this path. And then Wagner actually garnered more fame and recognition for his work. And so then it turns at this certain point where Nietzsche is sort of starting to realize that he's coming up against the harsh reality that he's not going to become Wagner. And that's when he starts to sort of, you can see in his letters, he starts to sort of be more scathing about Wagner's latest works and all that sort of stuff. And then eventually it's like a realization, because it's been driving him on. It's like this a negative rivalry, like I think Laszlo and I were talking about in one of our discussions, where you can have this positive rivalry in a sporting, say, context where, you know, you agree to sort of spur each other on through competition.
Like a mentor-mentee relationship.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah, and or even like even you're both you see yourself as equals, and you're sort of sometimes one wins and the other one wins, and it's a kind of an agreed way to generate energy. But in this instance, it was like it became obvious to Nietzsche that he was going to fail at being Wagner, because essentially he wants to be Wagner. It's like, it's nuts, because obviously Nietzsche is also like a genius and like doing a whole lot of really amazing things. But like,
but he got sucked into that illusion that he needs to do something else other than his individuality.
Yeah, and it's like his huge energetic desire for Wagner's being, more than just what he does, but who he kind of is just what mimetic desire manifests as, is not it's not realized, and it never is. Like, it never is, because it's a kind of an illusory spirit that drives you on, and it's not realized, and so that's when he fell into a kind of a sense of like of like hitting a wall, a kind of a psychological wall. But that's a very, very shorthand sort of description of the analysis of it. But yeah.
And but by the way, I have a question. But before that, I just thought about the perfect movie that we could review in Things Hidden. Have you seen The Prestige with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah,
You see, that would be a great movie to review, because first of all, it's a great production. So Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson, I think, David Bowie. He plays Tesla in the movie, so it's like a really good cast, and the story would be perfect to analyze, because it's just swarming with mimetic desire and rivalry and where it leads. So maybe on the next cast we can do that.
Yeah.
But
great idea.
yeah, but then a question is, so you said, Magenta, that you had this feeling and you identified it, and did that, by the way, kind of settle things down? Did that dissolve the actual emotion? I'm trying to kind of look at the solutions and what kind of approach you can take.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I'm no expert, but like I think self-awareness has to be like a starting point. Like, right, if you can, it's got to be a starting point, because actually the more you practice that, the more, when it happens, you're not going to let it just slide past you. You're going to see it. But essentially, I've been trying, I think I did like about 2 or 3 years ago, I think, when I was first listening to Jordan Peterson, he was saying you've got to face your fears and you've got to go into the darkest part of the forest.
Fight your dragon. Yeah.
Fight the dragon. Oh, the dragon will come and fight you. You go out there. And so I was like looking into envy, because like envy is a central thing, in all these relationship problems. And I was thinking, well, person X that I have lots of problems with, maybe that's because of my envy. And so I looked and I into it, and I listened to whole things, and I looked into my, and there's a lot of things you can do about that. I think Steph's talked about as well. Like, you can go, okay, well, if I envy it, that means that I value it. And so if I value it, well, why don't I just do it? And or if that person has this thing or does this thing and I feel envious towards it, well, how can I just do it myself, And so I don't have to feel resentful towards that person. That person kind of becomes irrelevant because I'm doing it myself. So
it could also be helpful to like not do it if it's the wrong kind of goal that like envy can often, like, I sort of I started my career in finance, work in accounting, and mates who sort of went into like really high powered finance routes. And they're currently like worked really hard, really long hours, and they're all talking to me now, like, why, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's really hard. I don't get treated well. And is the money even worth it? And then they're all having these kind of retrospective reflections of what drove them there. And I was there as well. Like, I had the same feelings. Like, I want to make loads of money. That's what you think when you're younger. Like, it's a pretty basic goal. And yeah, they just, you could just see and literally it ends up them saying, I just did it because everyone else did it. Literally is like
Dude, I had the exact same thing. Came to London, took a sales job. And by the way, for a while, I enjoyed it. But after a couple of years, despite the financial success and climbing the ladder, whatever, I started to ask the question, like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm not really enjoying. I have other ideas.
Yeah.
I would personally like to pursue something else. But for some reason, I'm stuck in that thing. And the only reason I could find is because my environment suggests that that's what I should desire, both the people in the same work environment. But you can look outside that, even even your friends and your family, just in general, the patterns and like why they do things in general. This can go on for years, and you can notice that actually I'm not interested in this. But still, the suggestion is so strong that you go along with it for years, and that's what's fascinating to me. That you can do this for years, and some people probably do it until the day they die. You know, they just pick up on others. And again, I'm not immune to this. And when you decide that, hey, I'm going to stop this because these are not my authentic needs and desires, then you will be confronted with the fact that it's incredibly difficult to do it. Like,
what the hell do you do?
Has a grip on you,
And what are your other desires? Like, are your other desires just going to be mimetic as well? Like,
well, that's the thing, is I'm not sure you can get away from it. And I think you can become more and more conscious of it, and you can pick, models that have more sense of meaning for you, I think I've sort of chopped and changed, switched models. When something's going bad, I've in my past, I've gone, well, I'll have a life like that person instead of having a life like that person. And I don't know if you, from what I've read about the psychology, but I'm not sure if you've got that much choice. I mean, it's like, you probably do. That's very bleak, but
it is quite bleak.
Yeah, we don't really know, but I recently saw a video from Elliot Halls. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's taking some very interesting approaches to this question specifically, and he recommends something called soul writing. Soul writing, it sounds very, wishy-washy, but basically it's about doing a long fast, like a 3-day fast, and you don't eat, you don't do any messaging, you completely disconnect from the outside world, let things settle down, and you try to turn inwards. And from experience, I can tell you that this is what objectively happens when you fast and you disconnect from the outside world. Things will settle down and you will see things in a different way. And it's about sitting down and just writing about your desires and what you would perceive your deepest intents, and really try to.
Our meeting's gonna. Sorry, you froze.
You froze.
Oh, sorry.
Same for me, man.
We're gonna have to restart the meeting, I think, because it.
Oh yeah.
And
also, my internet is unstable. I can see that.
I thought it was like you could have 3 people, but anyway.
Yeah. We can just jump on another one, and we will have 2 parts, so that's fine.
So I'll close this one, and we just click the same link. Is that right?
No, I think you need to create another one.
Okay,
and then...
I'll create another one and send it.
All right. See you later.
Sorry.
See you later.